Hello and welcome. I am Dogbert back again with my DD6 recommendations. I have completed DD6. I do have a stupid scroll. As of this video, I can see that there's at least 2,400 super scrolls in the wild right now. So my advice to you is get through it as quick as you can. Maybe a little bit cheaper than usual. As you'll see, I've made some changes to my recommendations since the last time I did this. And of course, why is this subject to change? Because every patch brings new characters who surpass the old ones and therefore is under constant review and change. This particular patch added a lot of that Sinister Six stuff that we have come to love now, with Craven being a big one, Vulture's rework being huge, and also wanted to say that DD6 feels like DD3 in terms of difficulty. If you can see behind my head, that's what I put there. I didn't put the dog in the wrong place. What can I say? Anyway, let's go talk about who we should maybe think about bringing. A lot of this is going to be subject to what gear you actually get out of the orbs. So for global, I'm only going to tell you to bring 3. That's Apocalypse, who's absolutely, positively, 100% required. Never mind the fact he does double up for those last 2 nodes of the Horsemen legendary Apocalypse nodes. Gambit is a very cheap mutant to bring. Only needs 2 pieces of gear 18. And Captain America, yes, the Rebirth team is going to get replaced, but he's still a very good energy battery, very good tank. He protects Apocalypse, he feeds Apocalypse energy. So why did I only put 3 here? Well, you're going to have to decide then based on what kind of gear you're constantly getting. For instance, I had a lot of bio gear and a lot of skill gear drop for me, so therefore I went more bio and skill characters. If you have a lot of Mystic, go there. My team I actually brought was these 3 plus Captain Carter and Dr. Doom. The team actually worked very well inside a global. You definitely want to bring Captain Carter and Captain America. That would be great to always bring that, but you have to be dropping a lot of bio gear into these 2 characters. Dr. Doom is tech and Mystic. For me, Mystic was the hardest gear to get, but he is actually quite useful if you can protect him with a Captain America to feed either him or Apocalypse energy to get his ultimate to go off, because it's usually going to take Apocalypse for the ride. That's going to give Apocalypse 3 turns. He does a lot of damage. Could get him back to his special and his ultimates quicker to knock out characters. Quicksilver is a good character. The problem with him, if you choose to go with him, you're going to be using up 4 slots of Mystic pieces there to get him. Not the greatest character for a first run, more of a second run because of that 4-piece requirement. Weaver is a little bit cheaper at 3-piece requirement. Very good tune still. Nemesis, he's a mutant. He can work, but he'll probably die. You won't get as much value out of him as you would think. Tigra is just a basic cheap bio character you want to bring in. You want to get through it. Same thing with Rescue, cheap tech. And Black Widow, from what I've heard, people like her. She is a cheap skill character at 2. These 3 on the end are all 2 of their pieces. So if you want to consider getting somebody who's cheap to help you get up and running, maybe it's your 5th character, because you definitely want to start hitting the global nodes and getting through them, because it's going to take multiple attacks, because like I said, this feels a lot like DD3. This would be a good cheap way to do it based on what gear is dropping for you. As far as Cosmic, well, there's actually a core 4 here, and then you pick the 5th. Vol is absolutely 100% needed. Photon really doesn't do a whole lot, but she's probably the best bio option you got in Cosmic. Kestrel is probably the 2nd most valuable character with her constant pings, plus she's the tech on the tech raid team. She is absolutely great. And Kang, of course, is Kang. He is good. Is dropping off a little bit, but he does do a lot of damage with his passive as well. As for who else to bring, you could bring Beta Ray Bill if you want to. If you're getting a lot of Mystic gear, this is kind of a protect Vol, a little bit of protect Vol, because you can get him to taunt to help protect Vol. Vol is your main damage, but a little slow. Star-Lord Annihilation here, he's a good cheap skill character. The Eternals are, as a whole, are great. If you only had to pick one, I would pick Cersei. If you wanted to bring both instead of, like, say, Photon, if you actually had that kind of Mystic gear, go for it. Hela and Deathpool are still good. You can still use them somewhat. Not as good options though, but they could be used in second runs if you wanted to speed it up a little bit, go get some of that death pool to knock out things. I found Cosmic actually to be even more difficult than Global. It really does feel like it is tuned for a Super Scroll. So on your second run, you definitely want to have the gear for Super Scroll to bring him into this. Dormammu, another great mystic, but unfortunately incredibly expensive to bring. Then we get into a couple more value characters here. Moondragon being a skill character, low value. This day kicks a couple pieces. And Star-Lord T'Challa. He's a low cost tech character. One character I have to put on your Stitcher if you had actually built him up. I had previously built Star-Lord T'Challa for DD5, so I ended up bringing him up to DD6 since he was still cheap. He dies a lot, let me put it that way. But once in a while, he did show some value with his blind and stealing some energy and getting a little bit more evades. He takes some hits. Pretty much, this is a character. Who are the fifth character is you're generally going to drop on your second run anyway. Just kind of get into Cosmic and deal with the nightmare that is Cosmic. As for City, I have 4 I actually recommend highly to build around, and then pick your 5th, like I said, as the gears come. Ghost Rider Robbie, 100% absolutely necessary. You're seeing this in the global. We needed Apocalypse, and Cosmic you need Vol. Well, in City you need Ghost Rider Robbie. He's absolutely positively needed. Miss Marvel Hardlight may not look like it, but she is actually quite good in here, especially when paired up with Ghost Rider Robbie to help protect him. Vulture, absolutely amazing. Probably the second most valuable character behind Ghost Rider Robbie. Every time you kill somebody, he is incredibly fast. He puts out a lot of damage. Just protect him. Kraven actually is quite good, even at 3 stars. I had him at 3-3. I took him in. He is actually quite good and quite survivable. And he puts out a lot of bleeds with his big ultimate, and he has that ability block. One thing I will say, no matter who you take, if you're bringing Ghost Rider Robbie, actually consider putting healer ISO on Robbie to help the team out and heal them. He gets so many turns, he's so quick, he's constantly throwing out some big heals there. He keeps the team alive. It really ups the team's survivability. Yes, you're taking damage away from Robbie, but keeping the rest of the team alive, this will allow you to one-shot or two-shot nodes in City. I did 1-2-2. It was very quick. And so who do you bring for a 5th? Well, we have Spider Slayer coming. He is a tech. He is a little bit more expensive than Vulture. The other thing about Vulture is he is only a 2-piece tech character. Kraven is a 3-piece skill. So they're fairly cheap. You also have another cheap tech character in Big Time Spider-Man. You could bring Hoodie. You could bring Shang-Chi. The problem you get into these, like a Shang-Chi, now you're doubling up on the unique of Kraven and Shang-Chi, and 2099 also has that problem. Kingpin also works well as well. He's a little bit higher cost skill character if you want to bring him, but his minions do count as when they get attacked for Ghost Rider Robbie's charge, which you do want to get going. Lizard for the obvious Sinister 6, even though we don't have him yet. He looks like he would synergize well. He's a little bit tankier. 2099 puts those bleeds out, but he's a falling off character. Cheaper Mystic character and Mr. Negative, but you have to watch out with those summons again. There are some Archangel, Deathpool things you can work around quite easily. And the last one is the one I actually took as a cheap bio character. She only costs 2 pieces of bio, and I already had her built up pretty high from back when we were using Web Warriors inside of Raid still. I took her to DD5, and that is Spider-Gwen, believe it or not. I actually built her up to gear 18, and she's actually quite useful. She does have an ability block. She does spread debuffs, and on top of that, she is very dodgy, helps break counterattacks. You put her behind Ms. Marvel to help break those counterattacks. Help break, the adjacent attacks type thing, because she counterattacks on every single hit. And of course, she dodges as well, giving her very high survivability. She was actually quite good inside of DD5. And that brings us on to the legendary nodes. I can really only say these 4 are definite. That is Green Goblin. He is actually quite good. Even at only 3 yellow stars, he was quite good. Nova, you start to see just how slow he can be, but he is good inside these nodes. There's a big difference why I'm saying that, because the legendary horsemen are a different animal. Omega Red, he shows you just how amazing he still is in these nodes, to be honest with you. And Black Cat, of course, being great. And then it comes down to what are you getting for gear? What do you have for uniques? Do you have miasma to bring a mystic like Adam? If not, I was looking at Maw at one point because he uses the books. Nobody else really uses it. I ended up bringing Fury because I have a ton of skill gear. He is absolutely useless, but he'll get you started. You also have Phoenix, Invisible Woman, and Shuri if you want to spend that. I am not going to say Doc Ock because he's one of the most expensive characters. Now, if you had a ton of tech and you could afford an expensive character like Doc Ock, go for it. As for Legendary Horsemen, this is where it gets more interesting of who do you bring, who do you replace. Well, it depends on what you got again. Apocalypse absolutely need it. Black Cat and Omega Red are the three I would say are definite in here. Now, it depends on who else you bring. Green Goblin could be in here as well. If you could only bring in one horseman in and you're willing to spend the bio gear, bring Red Hulk. He makes these last two nodes so much easier. If you can only bring one horseman, you have the bio gear, Red Hulk. If not, you can bring Morgan. If you can bring both Morgan and Red Hulk, if you actually have that kind of gear and you have the kind of time that you can actually build them, go ahead and build them. I would not build Rogue or Archangel, though, for these nodes. And I would definitely drop out Nova if you're bringing in like a Red Hulk. You don't really need Nova. Nova in these nodes really shows us how slow he can be, how long his cooldowns can take. If you brought Fury, he can be used to help charge up Apocalypse a little bit quicker. Green Goblin can, of course, always be helpful. Morgan is actually quite good. These nodes really are made to have a horseman or two on the team. You can get through it without the horseman, but you're going to take a lot longer. So if you can afford it, like I said, Red Hulk, absolutely the best horseman for DD6 along with Apocalypse. It makes a huge difference. I got down to the point where I two-tapped the first node, and it was pretty much Red Hulk and Apocalypse for most of that, then take me down to the last wave by themselves. Everybody else had died. It was actually quite amazing to see. So that gives you an idea of who you want to work on. Think about what gear is dropping for you, and then figure out your plan from there. Always be flexible. Don't commit that gear until you're into that section or very close to entering that section as well, because you never know what gear is going to drop in the future that you can plan for another section to bring up a character maybe you couldn't bring up. You got to be willing to play around with those numbers and make a decision based off of that. Until next time, everybody.